Welcome to the Dog Psychology Podcast with Todd and Art.
All right, so Todd, welcome to the Dog Psychology Podcast with Todd and Art. Did you know, Todd, that tomorrow, the 15th, August 15th, is the 1-year anniversary of us doing podcasts?
No shit.
Yeah, we've been doing this for a year now.
Why does it not seem like that even close?
I don't know. You're right. It doesn't. So we have, I was kind of curious because I started to look at our analytics and the numbers and stuff. I was just kind of curious. That's something I look at. And I was like, wow, we actually have a pretty decent following, which I was kind of excited about. And I looked at the very first time we published our first one. It was August 15th.
No kidding.
So shout out to Lynn this is Lynn's, this is a product of Lynn. Even though he's not here, we are products of Lynn as well. But
right.
It's one of those things that it was his idea. He said, hey, what if we did a podcast and let me call Todd, and I called you, and then here we are.
I like it. I think as we get more into the videos and certain things like that, I think this has a lot we can do with it. I think getting some guests on here, I'd like to have some experts in other areas, in diet. I talked to one a couple of weeks ago in diet, and some veterinary people on here. And maybe we need to get some people on here that have obviously different views that disagree with our approach, but can, discuss it openly.
Yeah. I sent you an Instagram account. We won't mention who it is just yet. But it's someone that I would love to get on the show. I started kind of seeing her stuff that she puts out, and she talks a lot about the same thing we talk about, but she has a science behind it.
Yeah. That person that one link you sent me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was like, wow, I really like this woman. She has a lot of really good information, stuff that I can stand behind. And, we have very different styles of how we approach things. But I think at the end of the day, it's like at the end of what we're actually working towards. Like I see a lot of stuff that she was doing. I was like, wow, that's pretty good.
Well, that's what we want to talk about today as well is strategy development. Like, how do you know what strategy to pull, like what to do? And then most importantly, being able to tell when it's working, when it's not, right? And making adjustments and changes and so forth. I think that's something that we've talked about it. We talked about it. I don't know what episode, where people are afraid to be wrong and they're not really in a creative, open mindset. They're kind of in a fixed mindset. This is the tool. This is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do this until it works, as opposed to doing it to see if it's working and then making adjustments accordingly to make it work.
Yeah. Well, I have a dog that I'm working with, and you probably can share something with the dog you were telling me about earlier, but I haven't told you about this yet. But I picked up a dog today for board and train, and I had met with the family. We did a Zoom and kind of get the how this dog interacts and who he lives with, and asking all the questions that I normally ask. And so, they just said he's reactive, and they had this incident where they were on a walk with him, and they walk with him on the figure 8, and they said he's fine, he's pretty good until he sees something that triggers him. And there was a runner that they didn't see. The owner was picking up poop, and the runner came around the corner and startled the dog and went after the owner. Came off figure 8. They were able to get him before anything happened.
You say went after the owner or went after the runner?
Went after the runner.
Okay.
Oops. Sorry about that. Let me turn my notifications off. And so basically, that's why they reached out to us. And they had already done some training, and some people that I trust, but they couldn't take the dog in at the time. And so they reached out to us. We had an opening. And so...
Did you ask why they didn't go back to the other people?
They didn't have openings.
Oh, so these people wanted a board and train.
Yeah, they had also they have a process on when they go out of town, because this dog, it's a sensitive dog, does not trust anybody, right? It's one of those dogs that he's a big dog. He's a big pitty, tall, leggy one too. Those tall ones. And so today was the first time I met with him. So I met with him this morning, and I called him and said, hey, go ahead and meet me outside. I want to go on a walk first. And, I'm always about getting that movement, so if they're nervous, whatever, at least we can get some movement. As soon as it sees me, it starts to lunge. And this is from coming out of the house, and I'm staying across the street. So I'm just kind of watching them. It gave me some really hard eye contact, just nervous, but eye contact, but moving forward, but all out of nerves. Then I said, all right, just keep moving, and then start walking, and he's trying to fight the figure 8 that's on him. And a lot of times, if that's the case, they're fighting the figure 8, it's because they got to fight something, you know what I mean? They go into a fight state. And so I was like, all right,
Do you use that to your advantage with owners? Explain, hey, yeah, I find a direct correlation to the amount of fight they're going to give a head halter or anything up here. They're going to go out with it. That fight's
yeah,
going somewhere, just like you
yeah, yeah,
said. I mean, do you
yeah.
do you take advantage of that as an opportunity to say, hey guys, let's work through this?
Well, yeah. And so I was like, look, I go, since I got to take this dog with me, the dog doesn't know who I am. It's reacting because it doesn't know who I am. I was like, let's put a muzzle on it because the dog had never, what I saw, I was like, this dog is, if it's, even I'm just standing there, just my presence is enough pressure for him that he may try and bite. And so they put the muzzle on him and they kind of walk him down. And then I wait and he settles. And I was like, all right, like I come closer. He reacts, he settles. And I'm like, okay, we're doing, I like what I'm seeing. He's starting to like settle, we're not moving away. And all of a sudden he like looks at me and he like lunges towards me and he pulls the owner. All right. And then he goes straight for my feet and muzzle punches my feet 3 times. Boom, boom, boom. I was like, bite, 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 And I was like, I'm just glad he has a muzzle on. So she's close enough to me where I can grab the leash. I said, just step back. I got it. Anyway, so I'm there. And so he has a figure eight and a muzzle. And he's got one of those like a slip collar. Not a slip lead, but like just a collar where it has like little O-ring where they can clip it on like a leash on there. And so I grab that and I hold, and there's one thing that I learned from Lynn was, how you hold it, how you can pull it towards you, and they creates an opposite reflex, but they can't really bite you.
Yeah.
So I'm just holding him because he's kind of like, trying to bite me, and I'm just like holding him there, and he's on muzzle. All of a sudden he does this, whoop, and he slips out of me because it's not a collar. Something I can turn. So he ends up slipping out of the freaking collar, pulls the muzzle off, pulls the figure. It just comes off all at once, right? So here we are. We got this dog that's trying to bite me in front of their yard, and then he just like, he doesn't realize he's off the leash, thank God. And he's like looking there, and I kind of step back a little bit, and he's like confused what just happened because he was pulling back. And so he pulled back enough to get close to the owners, and the husband just goes, whoop, just grabs him. And I was like, just put a leash back on him, And I was like, look, just
Do you think
wait it out.
you think he would have come back in?
He would have, but I'm actually preferred that he actually went toward my feet and not up here.
Yeah. So when you're done, I want to talk about a video. I should have sent it to you. I didn't think about it until you were talking. That had a devastating ending, and so that's why I was interested. That going down. Explain to what the difference is. You just said, I'm glad he went to my feet, except not my head. What's the difference?
Because usually when they do that, I mean, obviously it's fear, and he obviously was going to bite me. But when going towards the feet, it's more of a nervous reaction as opposed to I want to kill you.
Yeah.
What
would have been more? I want to kill you.
Going up toward the head, the neck, things like
Yeah.
that. The higher up they go, the more intensity it is. Like, for example, like that dog at TCW, the one that grabbed onto my arm, he didn't, he got back here. I mean, yes, but he was more like going this way. He didn't go towards me. He went towards my arm because I had grabbed, and so those little things, I'll look at and realize, I'm just like, and I told him, I was like, I'm just really glad he went for my feet. And I was like, I don't care. You want to go by my feet? I don't go for it. You have a muzzle on. What are you going to do?
Right.
And then he ended up getting tired. We ended up going inside the house, and he kind of laid down, but he laid down in avoidance. And I was like, God, this is still not good, And so he was kind of laying. Then all of a sudden he like woke up, and I'm sitting there talking, and he just looks at me, makes eye contact, and just explodes at me again. I was like, crap, here we go again. So I was there for like 2 hours. I was going to pick up this dog. Why does it look so furry on my screen? Oh, it's your screen.
Oh no, that's because my cat's walking around right now.
Okay. I'm like, what just happened?
I think the tail just went in front of the.
That's funny. Anyway, so I was like, look, guys, we're gonna have to do something here because this dog doesn't trust me right now. I was like, how is he when you guys aren't around? They're like, he's so much better. I'm like, just put him in my van, put him in the crate, and we'll, I'll see how he does. So they put him in the crate, they come to my house, and he's like a dead weight, having a hard time getting out of the crate. And finally, I have the crate out of the long line.
That's also kind of a good sign too.
Yes.
Right.
And so he has a muzzle on, he has a long line, and so I grab the long line, pull it out, and try and get him out. And I want to see if he'll come out. So I give him a little bit of pressure, see if he'll come out, and he won't come out. I was like, let me just wait. So I just kind of wait, and he gets enough courage, and he jumps out of the van, and I bring him in the house, and then I have he's actually right here, right next to me. Excuse me, in a crate. So he's here, and I just want him to decompress, but he's been really good. I just say really good. He's better, not around the owners. So my goal with this dog, and it's interesting that I've never really dealt with a dog like this. And what I mean by that is like where he goes to one extreme to the other, meaning he's shut down at one point or he wants to go after me. So on that same walk where he just tried to go after me, I was like, hey, let's go on a walk. Let's kind of loosen things up. No, he wanted to shut down. Like he just lay down like pancaked. And even though I was there, he wasn't reacting to me anymore. So he went from one extreme to the other. So it's like this really difficult balance.
Does he accept anything?
No, he's all eyes,
Yeah.
no nose. The good thing is when I actually got him out of the van, I kind of just sat there with him. Even when I brought him in this room, I kind of just sat there with him, and he started to like use his nose. I'm like, God, something. Like he's, when it's quiet and things are, just not a lot going on, he started to get quiet. But then my family shows up. They, they came into the front door, and River probably like slammed the front door, and he like lost it. He was going crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I'm in a room, so like the kids haven't seen him, and he hasn't seen the kids. He probably won't. But it just he gets triggered by sound, so he's all sight and sound.
Yeah.
No. So it's gonna be a fun one to be working with. I haven't worked with one of these in a long time. It's been a minute, so but
we've talked about it. We we kind of went out of our way to not bring those in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just for the sake of the family, like you said, the kids and stuff. I had it to where you had to go through a couple doors to get to things, but you still, it's still, I was very fortunate. There was one instance I can remember where McKenna almost got bit. It was by a German Shepherd. It actually caught me off guard too. She went in and she hugged it. Really wasn't her MO either. She usually was pretty good with it. And he kind of snapped around. He wasn't trying to bite her, but that was the closest. I feel very fortunate that in all the time, all the dogs here, we kept them safe. But when they're that quick to trigger, it's so vital that your management system is top notch.
Yeah.
Can I go back to something you said at the beginning that the client said that to me I hear a lot, and I always question this perception when they go, he's fine on a leash until whatever. Like, do you question that? Do you go, well, what's fine to you?
Yeah.
Do you ask them to define that?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because they said that they had hired one of my colleagues, which I trust. Like she's really good. She helps us out with our socials. She's kind of out of the clients are out of the way for her. And they had done one session with her. And one of the things that they had told me was that the other trainer had come in and they kind of sat down and they had a reaction, but then they kind of smelled and then they said in their words he was fine with her. Okay. So after we were done, I called her and I wanted to get her take on it. She's like, no, he came in and put like some breaths on me. Like, so their version of fine, right.
Yeah.
They're like pushing, like, what are you doing here? Didn't have the reaction.
But that could have been very much the male female difference too. Like you could have gotten the hit because of, obviously it was more intense before the dog got to you, obviously. But that could be where, I think that's a good question for you to ask, because let's say the dog did in fact accept her. It tells me like, oh shit, like, am I able to get soft enough for the dog? You know what I mean? Yeah. Am I able to put myself in the right energy if it's accepting her? And I know, you know what I mean? And you run the numbers and your energy compared to them is quite a bit different.
Yeah. So it's going to be a fun one. I'm excited. He's passed out right now, which is a good sign that I'm here and, he's passed out. So these are all little details that are good.
What do you, like when we're done talking, what are you going to do?
So I'm going to go, I have a long line on him still, and I want him to start using his nose. So I'm going to take him on a walk. I think it's super hot here in Texas right now. It's extremely hot. So, I'm going to go out and just kind of see how he does. He's going to be on muzzle probably until he starts to show me that he doesn't need to be on muzzle around me. Because here's the other thing is like, what I don't want him to be is triggered by something else when he's off muzzle and then redirect on me. So I want him to be triggered by something and see if he does redirect on me, just so I have a better frame of reference to. And that's one of the things, we're going to talk about today is like strategy and want to change strategy.
What's the thing I say? If Brad hasn't already like copywrote it and put it on shirts and shit, what's not a strategy?
Hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, so that was the thing you just said right there. It was massively important. Is he's going to stay on a muzzle until I understand what some of the triggers are, and so I can take him through the paces. One of the worst things I do to myself is put myself in positions where I need a tool or I need something I don't have, and then I can't do anything about the behavior that happens in the absence of not having that tool. And I allowed myself to get into it. You know what I mean? It's like, that's the dumbest feeling. It's like, and it's so preventable. And my ADD like keeps that so alive in me. You would think like you would just work through it, but I can't. It's something I'm always having to remind myself not to get myself in those situations.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I'm glad I get to listen to it and I don't have to go through it right now. It's nice. This is just the one I have is just an excited pup, you know. So he's actually going home at the end of this week, and done really good. He's a simple case,
Yeah.
but little things are with him are a little bit tricky. Submissive peen's always a challenge, no matter what. That's a challenge to
Yeah.
to get the rituals right. And this is a perfect example of if you don't follow the strategy. So if I want to do something, it has to do typically with putting something on him, putting the collar on him or something like that. And I want to do it, but I do not take him out and immediately let him have a chance to empty his bladder. I am going to get submissive pain. It's guaranteed. And so if I choose to skip that step, I will get it. If I do it, I have no problems with it. I mean, I can create a good rhythm where I go days and days and days without an accident. But if I choose not to honor the strategy, I will pay for it. And that's the thing about behavior that's so I think so difficult for people is a lot of the strategy involves you just accepting what's happening and being patient until it changes. And people aren't good at that. We've been told that you tell your dog what to do, you know, best case, or I don't care what my dog does. You know, the other side. So,
all right. So what did you have in mind as far as like strategy changes? I mean, I can go through a list of stuff that
well, that's the thing, dude. I'll go with the one I just had today. And like you just talked about one. So to me, I find is one of the most fundamentally important things for anybody. It doesn't matter what you're doing, but so, you know, we're teaching our clients is, you know, Caesar talks about this. And in the reference, for those of you who don't know, I think most of you understand TCW or have been, but for those of you who don't know, we focus primarily on the energy, the approach, the way, you know, how you're going about doing things, not so much what you're doing, not the technical side, but the way it feels, the energy and so forth behind it. And to the point that out of 50 slides, the last two on Sunday, the last day, are tools and techniques. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So the importance is energy. So when we say energy, it's intention. Intention is what do you want, right? Do you have a plan? So I took a dog in a car today, and my plan was to go to, it's called Sports Academy. It's a place, you know, like you said, it's hot as fuck here too, to go and be able to, you know, do some basic stuff indoors. We all know what that is, and go and do it indoors. But this dog has only been picked up and put in a crate in the back of a car. And I did a post with this guy yesterday where I was working on getting him to jump in.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So, you know, he jumped in, but since he doesn't have experience, when the car starts moving, he gets anxious. So I could have chose to stay in the driveway, but I went to my destination. And when I got there, he was standing up, you know, staring out the window. Mm-hmm. And I gave him a couple minutes. I was just going to wait because I need him to relax. So at that moment, my intention, although it was to go to Sports Academy, had to shift to dealing with the anxiety. Mm-hmm. And my strategy was I'm going to give him a couple of minutes. If he doesn't relax, I'm going to get him to lay down. Mm-hmm. Now, he has that capability. I've worked with him. He has it well. But that strategy didn't work. So when when they're like that, I don't choose to give commands. So I use the leash. And I used the leash and applied pressure, and he laid down, and then he would get back up, and then he'd lay down and he'd get back up. And I did that, I think 3 times, and I went, nope, fuck it. I just didn't feel like it was helping. And the only way I think you can answer that is if you have a measurable thing you're looking at, right? Like did he lay down longer the 3rd time than he did the 2nd or the 1st time? Was he more relaxed the 3rd time than he was the 2nd or the 1st time? If he was, in my opinion, that's good. I could have done it a 4th time and maybe built it, right? But he wasn't. It was the exact same. Like all 3 repetitions looked the same. So in my mind, I'm not really doing anything helpful. So I shifted my strategy because I went, well, I could get involved in this in the wrong way really fast, especially with anxiety. So I shifted my strategy. I'm in a parking lot. I have nothing to do. I mean, I'm working, right? So I just sit there. And I just start relaxing. I can sit and do nothing pretty easy. And then after about 10 minutes, I put on relaxing music. And it took about a half hour, but he crashed out. And then I was able to get out of the car and then go to my initial attention, which was going into the Sports Academy. But I think that ability to move your plan around is what people struggle with. And we see this all the time, you know, with Caesar's up on stage. I can tell when he the number one place we would see it is the treadmill. And I can tell when he shifted his strategy really quickly, but I don't know how the students see it.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I totally agree. like let's say he has he's working with the ball, and the ball is like works in the beginning, but then doesn't start to like fade out his interest, and he'll bring something else in. Can you bring a chicken? He was like, or something, you know what I mean? Like,
as quick as he can. Now explain, Art, why. Like I did a post on this I started to. Whereas if you're using food or you're using something to prompt what you want and you don't use it, I talked about it last week, but you keep offering it, it can actually become a negative, even though it might be something that's, you know, at one point the dog was motivated by. That's the one thing, again, I don't think people see what is and isn't working. And Caesar will go through 10 things. I mean, he'll go with the dog real quick. Todd, get up here. Art, come over here. Move this. Get this.
Can I get a leash? Yeah.
Get a leash. Get Sophia. You know, it's always he's getting something or doing something. I'll use dogs.
But with always the same intention of what he's after. That's
the thing that people. That's why that's the most important focus is you have to see it. If you can't see it, how do you even know how to create one strategy, let alone change it and midstream and do something different? That's why I like that mother dog correcting puppies videos, because even that chick switches her strategy. She goes in with the intention of ignoring. Do you have that video?
Which one?
The one where the mother dog corrects the litter of puppies.
Oh yeah, the golden retriever one.
Yeah. That's a classic strategy shift. She walks in and goes, I'm going to ignore these little minions. And then you can tell 4 seconds in, she's like, nope, that didn't work. And she spins around and shifts the whole thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because she gets a little physical, but she also gets psychologically involved, right? So she does these things that she also ignores. That's the first thing people do. What does Caesar always say? Ignore it. You have to either ignore it, you can ignore it. Because people are like, should I just ignore it? Like, well, you can. It's an option. That's what Caesar always says. It's an option. Yeah. If that option doesn't work, you got to do something else. He's like, you can either ignore it or address it. One or the other. So you can try ignoring it. If it doesn't work, then switch your strategy to go to address it.
How do you explain it?
What's that?
Because I'll tell people, I go, I can ignore it until I can't. It's like, you know, it's when I'm speaking personally, I'm like, because it's usually the vocalizations are a big one when it comes to that.
Well, it's also like the one, you get this a lot, I'm sure, and I get it a ton, where a dog jumps on me, so I turn around, and I was like, what you need to do is you need to turn your back on that strategy, because it's obviously not working.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's great.
I heard someone say that, whoever told you to turn your back when the dog jumps on you, you need to turn your back on them or something like that.
That's great. Yeah. I like that. It's true though. I mean, it'll work. It'll work on the dogs that are softer in energy, like the ones that are just seeking attention. But if there's anything above, hey, you're pretty today, no way. That's a stupid strategy. I don't know who came up with that. Same people do this.
Yeah. So I also want to kind of, when you were talking about when you were taking that dog to, where were you taking it again?
Some sports place, some
sports place. I'm just making notes here. And that'll happen a lot of times when I'm in the middle of something and I'm thinking, okay, this is not really working right now. Like, so we had the intention of going into this sports area, sports place. And so you had to spend a little more time that you thought you were going to. And so you kind of just shift the strategy. But you still had the same intention of, how does this dog, because it's an anxious dog and you don't want the dog to be anxious, because if you get the dog anxious, then that becomes a pattern over and over. So you want to create a new pattern that says, I want you to relax in the car before we go to the next step. Lynn used to have like his golden rule.
Forward movement in any event can only happen when the dog's energies fall in an authority figure in a calm, submissive manner.
Right. So that in one statement is exactly
everything.
Yes.
And that was the thing. He goes, it's the answer to every question. So when he actually framed it, he goes, the answer to every question is, and it was the first thing we wrote down. So and I have the notebook. I should go grab it. The first thing we wrote down was that statement. And then he broke it down. He goes, okay, forward movement. That means not necessarily a physical step unless you're on a walk, but as you just described, going from the event of being in the car to the event of getting out of the car, right? So then he describes what's an event. The activity that you're currently doing with your dog, I think, is what it was, right? So then the forward movement in any event can only happen when the dog's energy, so that means are they fight, flight, avoidance, or surrender, following the authority figure, that would be the human, in the calm surrender manner. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely fucking brilliant, because it really does answer everybody's questions. Why does my dog do this? Well, you kept going.
Yeah.
That's why. That is literally the answer why, is because you kept going.
Yeah.
And that's all I can tell you, especially out on the walk.
Or you kept going in the direction of what I mean by that is like, so if they're in a fight, a forward mind, and they keep going that direction, that becomes a pattern. If they go into a flight and they retreat, even they're going away, it's still that pattern of I'm still guiding.
Now explain the pattern. I mean, because we always have the pattern means that's how I got what I wanted, right? So I went forward, I got excited, I ran towards the person, and I got attention, or in your case, chased them off, like the dog tried to bite your feet. Same thing as jumping. It's serving the same purpose. I'm trying to control something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Another thing I forgot to mention with this dog is that because I said let's go and take it for a little walk so we can kind of shake some of this stuff off, and I put a long line on it. It's like, don't put a long line just in case. And so as soon as we got past their house, it just like burp, like pancaked on the floor. And I was like, you were just going after me over here. Now you're pancaking over here. Like, where's the balance in this? And so and then he started like to pull like about 3 or 4 feet, started to pull the dog. I was like, hey, just walk away, but use the whole leash. Just walk away. And so as soon as he got to the leash, the dog realized, oh crap, he's over there. And he got up and caught up to him,
Yep.
And I said, look, I don't want him to dwell in the shutdown. The longer he stays in that where he's shut down, the longer it's going to be for you to get him out of it. So I said, by you going away, you are the motivating factor in this situation, right? So with the fact that you're 15 feet away now, is like, oh shit, I got to go catch up to you. So then he starts to move on his own, right? And so we had to do that over. No, we walked into the block, and every time he was shut down, I was like, give him the whole leash. Just go to the end of the leash, and he would catch up.
Do you do that with your kids? It's super effective, dude.
No, I know, but I haven't had to do that.
Oh, bullshit. I'm sure you have. You just didn't know you just didn't know you needed to walk away.
I mean, if I did, I just kind of like didn't realize I was doing it,
Are you comfortable talking about the energy of the owners?
Yeah.
So tell me about the owners of this dog. So let me ask you this. This is where I'm always like, all right, we obviously have the dog. You've described the dog. I understand the dog. Like, I get it. My strategies are developing for, even as we talk, my little plays are being made. What is it about the owners that motivated you to take this dog? Not only that you could help this dog, but you could help them change to what they needed to, because obviously they have to make changes. What do you think they need to focus on personally?
So this is something that I told him, is that because he at his core, like, people will see the bite and, oh my God, he's aggressive. But
does he have a bite? Has he successfully bitten?
No.
Okay.
But he would have done it to me today.
Will he bite them?
No.
For nothing? No.
And here's the thing, 'cause that's what I asked him. I said, when did you get him? They said, we got him at 8 weeks old.
Okay.
She's like, we fostered the mom. I think they said they fostered the mom and the litter mate. I think there was like 2 puppies. And I was like, oh, okay. So it had a mom. Yeah. And they're like, he's always been nervous. He's always been like a insecure dog.
Mm-hmm.
So he grew up. They have another dog in the house, by the way, happy-go-lucky dog. So he doesn't go after that dog because he grew up with them since he was 8 weeks old. Same thing with the owners. He's known them since he was 8 weeks. Did I say month or weeks earlier?
No, you said it right. 8 weeks.
Okay, so 8 weeks old. And so then, to me, that tells me that when the dog is at a very vulnerable stage, puppyhood, it knows the owners at that moment, right? So it doesn't do anything. Just will shut down around them, but
so it will go into the avoidance, and the fight, but it won't. Will it avoid them?
Yes, in some certain situations, not like they were, when I went in the house, like they were trying to get him to go into place because they had already been working on that, and he was kind of an avoidant at that moment. Like, he didn't want to go on. So
is he avoidant of the leash a lot?
Yes.
Like when they're using?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do a post on this, dude. I don't think this point here can be understated for people. So ultimately, what I think happens with dogs like this, you tell me what you think. I've never met the dog. When you have dogs that have that level of sensitivity, let's not even talk about anything other than the way you get the leash to work. Okay, so pretty much the majority of all dogs that we work with have an oppositional learned pattern to the leash.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You put a little pressure left, they go right. You put pressure right, they go left. You put pressure upper back, they go forward. Now, the only one that I believe is pretty much natural is that one where they go forward when you pull back. Now, I think the oppositional part on some extent is natural, but when owners do that and they don't recognize it, and then they allow the dog to move forward with that action, it becomes so ingrained in the way that they exist outside that you're actually creating conflict through direction.
Yeah.
Right. And then you get to the point where the energy goes higher and you start to give more direction. And essentially every time you put pressure on the leash, you're not giving direction, you're giving conflict.
Yeah.
and you're creating something out of thin air that doesn't actually exist. And then the owner's focusing on the reaction and they do more of the same. And I don't know about you, but in most of those cases, you have to go to the just every single step. There can be no tension. Tension will lead to the avoidance, which is going to lead to this opposition and this conflict. Am I kind of close with this dog?
100%. That's why I put a long line on them, because when they would pull,
because they were trying to keep them so close.
Yes, and so I also noticed that when he was lunging at me, how she was pulling back, which allows the dog to keep wanting to move forward. And that was the other thing also, when he got off leash and the husband grabbed him and he was like holding on by his chest and was pulling him back, I was like, oh,
don't do that, hold tight.
Yeah. And I was like, because he does have a lot of opposition reflex. I mean, most dogs do, but this was like very evident. Like you could see, like,
I don't like the figure eight.
Yeah.
I love the nose collars. Huge fan. I do not like the figure eight. I think it applies pressure to the bridge of the nose in a way that creates an opposition, even if the dog doesn't want it. I don't like figure eights. If you're going to use that, go buy a tool. Go buy the halti. Go buy the walk-in train, because it has neoprene. It sits. There's no tension. It's got a muzzle action if you need it. I think it's an infinitely better tool if that's the way that you want to go.
You want to hear my take on that?
Yes, sir.
I actually think that it's more so that it's the rope that's causing that too. Because what happens is when you look at a rope, it's round, and so you're only making contact on the bottom of that circular part,
very
right?
tiny surface area,
right? And so there's a small surface area that makes contact. So all the pressure is going all in that small area.
Yep.
Whereas I've been using flat leashes, and I'm getting actually something like this. It's a flat leash that I use, and when you're able to apply the pressure over a larger surface area, it doesn't dig into the skin.
Correct.
And so that's one less thing that I'm getting these made. I'm getting these custom made, by the way.
Okay.
I got a whole thing happening right now. So, but I'm excited to release that. Hopefully by the fall, we'll have these available, have my logo and everything. Like I'm like super stoked about these.
Are you going to call it the Mexican halti, or just?
No, I'm going to call it that. Maybe I should and sell it to Caesar.
What's that?
But I probably can't use the word halti. But anyhow, like
so that's going to go over the bridge of the nose then with a flat strap as opposed. Correct. Gotcha. Yeah. I like the haltis. Even the initial halti design didn't have the neoprene underneath it like it currently does. Yeah. They've merely, and then the adjustable strap under here. Yep. I think, Art, Lynn put a halti on the dog during my first appointment with him. I mean, he was using them since way back when. I don't know if he encourages them now or not, but I think it makes it easier. I think very few people are successful walking a dog with a slip lead. I think that's a very challenging tool for people because somebody was asking me the other day they said, when I walk, I can really get my dog to walk next to me, and walk him in the right spot. And they go, but it's not, I can't do it all the time. And I said, well, we have to quantify this. And she goes, what? I go, let's count the steps. I go, are you accountable to every single step you take with your dog on a leash? Like every one? Like we got to think about the ones in between the walk, like from the house, down the walkway to the street, from your car to the vet's office. People think that like I can sometimes do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that part is, again, it's the simple things done repetitively perfect that I think we naturally do that the humans aren't adjusted to. I was watching the Pets Ahoy show. You guys have a SeaWorld in Texas, right?
Yeah, San Antonio.
Have you ever been?
Like in the early 90s or mid 90s.
By the way, I have a photo with me posing with all the superhero water ski people. I'm like 6 or 7. I have my arm around Wonder Woman. It's awesome. They have a Pets Ahoy show, and they have like cats.
What?
It's called Pets Ahoy. It's a live show. It is the coolest pet show I've seen. So they have pigs, cats, birds, dogs, maybe a couple other things, but all the basic animals. And they do these unbelievable, the cat walks out walking a lawnmower and then runs over something. Then all these little dogs run out, and every dog knows exactly what to do. They go to the exact spot. It's marked perfect. It's run perfect. It's fucking amazing. One time we used to have season passes because when you have little kids, it's just, one of those things. And we would go to the show. And one of the times the dog missed their mark. The whole show stopped. This is a full auditorium. They stop the show. A trainer comes out, takes the dog, walks it through the repetition properly, and then they continue the show. And they even mentioned at the end, they go, we can't have them go through the repetitions improper if we want them to do the show properly. And these animals are happy as can be. I mean, I can look at all these animals and tell that they're in an amazingly happy state, at least during the performance. The guy that runs the
Not the
show,
whale.
he has, I'm not talking about the whales. He has this set up at his house. So these are all rescue animals and he runs it through his house. They have it all set up that way. And look, dude, it's hard to get animals to do that stuff if they're not agreeing with it. It's one thing with the dolphins and stuff, but these guys, I don't know.
Hey, by the way, do you remember when we were at the filming of what's that TV show that we went to?
Will and Grace.
Will and Grace.
Yeah.
They had a dog on the show. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, they had. I could have sworn that there was a dog on there, and they brought it out, and like it had to do something, and then it did its thing, and then they filmed it, and they walked it out. You don't remember that?
No, I don't.
Yeah, there was like I could have sworn there was a dog on there, or maybe I'm just imagining because it was Deborah Messing's dog that Steve had worked with.
That was Deborah. He had her dog.
Yeah.
With him. Remember, he had the dog out there, and remember we put it up on the table, and everybody walked by and gave it treats.
Yeah.
To get it used to people reaching in and so forth.
That's right. I forgot about that. Completely forgot about that. But that was fun, by the way. I got a big kick out of you,
Steve.
You and Steve. And you.
Well, because the audience was like 90% gay. I mean, 90% not just gay, but 90% like flamboyant and yeah. And
we were just there because Deborah had invited Steve, and Steve's like, hey, we're gonna hang out. Let's go there. So we all went, and I'd never seen. I mean, I know of the show, but I don't really know. And it was got thrown into that. But it was fun. It was a cool experience, and they always in between like scenes when they film scenes, they have like a hype man kind of comes in and gets the crowd all hype, and so we were just like, we're so out of place right now. What do we do? Because he's like, everybody stand up and clap, and this and that. We're like, we have no idea what we're doing, but we'll go ahead and do it, But it was fun. I had a good time.
Yoa was with us too, right?
Yeah. I think so. I'm pretty sure he was there. Yeah. That was actually when we had gone to Soho House like the night before.
Oh, that's right. Were we staying in Malibu? We were staying in Malibu.
We were staying in Malibu, yeah.
Right.
And I have video from that place that we stayed, which was kind of cool. But I remember that's when you also got injured. That's when you had your nerve damage when the dog had bitten you.
Well, yeah, that was our first workshop back, I think, or in that phase, right? We had been off for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the beginning of August. That was 6 years ago today, or 6 years ago at the beginning of August. That was how long ago that was. How crazy is that?
I'll never forget. Also, this is kind of off topic, but we were at Soho House, and me and Yor look over at the end of the table. We look at the end of the table, and you have a bowl of ice cream, and you're just like this.
I was
me and Yor look at each other.
Ignore the conversation that was just yarning on. I think
that was being around James was a lot, but
I think I was finished at that point.
But just like you were eating a bowl of ice cream, and like you were completely disengaged from everything else. And me and Yoa look at you, and we just died laughing. Like, what is Todd doing right now? You're just like when you're eating your ice cream at Soho House.
That was my strategy to not deal with the conversation. I think I'll go into my bowl of ice cream happy place.
Yeah, that was a high energy. When you get Steve and James in a room together, it's like, we're not even here.
No. I mean, you got to understand, like, to me, the easiest way to understand what dogs go through is to put yourself in the position that you've been through, right? Like that. Like everybody's been in that position. So you get a dog around somebody that it's exactly how they feel. They're just not trying to hide it. Yeah, that's quite an energetic.
That was a funny side story for you guys out there. All right, so let's go back to the training strategy. Because I think that it happens on the daily. You have an idea of what your direction you're going to go, but at the end of the day, you're thinking about what it is. You talked about the intention, what it is that we're what are we working towards, right? And so you have an idea. We're going to go this direction towards what it looks like. But then you know what? We're losing. I always say, well, I'm losing the dog.
Yep.
Get the dog back. To get back on to the
and strategy. What's really hard is, and I'm constantly having to be reminded of this, it's funny, you'd think you'd get used to it, is that the majority of what you're going to see, you're not going to see right now. You know what I'm saying? So it's a long game type of thing. So every interaction has to be, what do I want to see in the future? And what should it look like now so that I can see that in the future? That's the hard part. Is that even with parenting, it's like, parenting is even harder because your results are so much slower. right? But when it comes to dogs, at least we get, sometimes our feedback can be relatively quick. But, I'm doing basic obedience stuff with this dog and he's slow. And so I'll have moments where he's stuck, he's not getting it. And I have to fight like hell to remind myself it is going to be the speed it's going to be. And if I have a moment where I try to speed it up, then I have to recover. Then I'm like, dude, just like you just said, I just lost this dog.
Yeah.
And I have to appreciate that the results that I want to see, I'm going to see in 3 days.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And even a dog, that latent process of it, they get the lesson I'm teaching them now, they really, really get it tomorrow and the next day. They're not really going to get that part of it. And that's the part that, to me, even after all this time, I struggle with.
I thought of this because, like, a lot of times people can hear like a certain strategy. Oh, you should try this. We see it all the time. People watch YouTube videos and they try to, and they're dealing with the dog and they try something. And one of the things that, I don't know why I just thought of this, but there was one thing where, working on thresholds, right? And so I see this all the time for whatever reason, even though people are working on thresholds, the dog is still really close to the door. So there's a straight way to go outside the door. So as soon as that door cracks open, they're already moving forward. And I'm like, got to stop, just stop that. As a matter of fact, get more distance, more space, And one of the things that I always see people do is they apply, they think a psychological pressure, but they start walking into the dog or they start touching the dog. So the dog actually never learns psychologically to move back. But then we ask, hey, let's get some eye contact from that dog because it's all eyes of the door, wants to go outside. And so I always see people standing so close to the dog physically can't make eye contact with them. Right, they have to look almost 90 degrees. I'm like, look, take a step back, take 2 steps back. So it's more like a 45-degree angle. And as soon as they do that, the dog goes, hey, what's up? I'm like, yep, that's what you need to do, right? So people can hear the strategy and all this other stuff, but even these little details are also very important. That's why you should hire a professional to help you out with these things.
Well, it allows you to see yourself, right? It allows you to see what is and isn't working necessarily. I mean, we've all learned something new. You're in jiu-jitsu right now. So it's the one thing to think you're doing it and moving a certain way, but somebody gets to see this is how you're actually moving. Put your body in this position and then you'll be moving that way. And it's helping people become clear with that.
Yeah.
And again, staying present enough to always have the mentality of what do I want to see? And is that what I want to see? Is that what I wanted to see? And you said something in the beginning. What does everybody say all the time? I've tried everything.
Yeah.
Bullshit. If you had, we wouldn't be having this conversation. You may have tried things, but I'd hate to say you've tried everything, or at least the things you have tried were tried all the way before you figured out if it was or wasn't working. Knowing when to abandon something and when not to beat it to death is very tricky. It's difficult. So I sent you a video, and this isn't meant in no way to disparage this guy. He seems like a nice guy. But the reason that it came up, because I had saw this video earlier today or yesterday. And even when I saw it, I went, does he pick up on that? I'm not exactly sure he's getting what he's hoping to. And it's not bad, but I definitely caught a, and I haven't studied this video. So as I watch it again and again, I'll see different things. You've only seen it once. I've seen it maybe 3 times. I'd be interested to know what you saw, like what you picked up when you first saw it, because you definitely started nodding and went, okay, all right. So I'd be interested to know what you saw, if it was along the lines of what I saw that made me go,
Yeah. There's also the things that he said that were, again, I think he's well-meaning.
Correct. Absolutely. Good energy. Well-meaning.
Yeah. I love everything about him. I just, maybe the strategy may have just changed up a little bit. Or not the strategy, the what he was saying as opposed to what the dog is feeling, or why we have to do some of the things that he mentions.
Correct. Recognizing, I think this goes down to recognizing psychology versus positioning versus training. This is actually a very good example of psychology versus training, honestly. So it's this man's training for an outcome that I'm not sure he'll get. He may get it to him, but some of the things, you know what I mean? But yeah. I don't know if he'll have it. And even something accidental that he did at the very end, in my opinion, encouraged something I would never want to see a dog do.
You talking about the petting at the end?
With the feet spread wide.
I didn't see that part.
Where he put the dog in a position around the ducts to get it. He almost accidentally encouraged a perfect possessive positioning. Do you know what I mean? And to accidentally feed it. So that's what I'm saying. I've seen it enough to see a couple things, but
I literally only watched it once while I was setting everything up. And then there's also the ducks. It was kind of interesting too.
Correct.
So we can watch that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Camera shows. This is some old footage from November last year when he weighed 86 pounds at 6 months old. I was hand feeding him at the time, working with him on training. I wanted to make sure food aggression would never be an issue because he's just going to be way too big for that. It's hard to believe he was that little or that I consider that size little. We've made big improvements in training from then till now. Now the default is to not eat food unless I give the command. In case anyone's wondering, he's now 10 and a half months old and he's a whopping 168 pounds.
Oh, I just picked up on something new too.
Yeah, the platform.
Well, not that, something about something else. And again, it's for strategy development, guys, on how you grow. That was one of the things I was talking about.
He usually leaves it right away the first time, but
See?
the dogs were putting some pressure on him.
Right.
That's another. I just caught something else too.
Right, that thing at the end. Okay, so yeah, hang on. How do I pause this? So I figured out a way how to make this play on here, but I don't know how I'm going to be able to pause this. Where do you want me to go to, Todd?
Let's run through it. So tell me a couple of things that I see. I think hand feeding is something a lot of people do. I don't hand feed my dogs. Now, I don't know if you do. It's not that I haven't. I have hand fed dogs, especially there's certain times that I think when dogs have aggression towards food or in certain possessive situations, it is part of a strategy. But and this is my opinion, if you're trying to prevent a dog from being possessive or a dog is possessive, hand feeding isn't an answer. There are elements of hand feeding that can bring a different association of hands being near the food, right? But in my opinion, it's more the association of the food and the association of the human and the association of what you're connecting the food, the energy, and the other things to, right? So my belief would be, I definitely want this just to be a calm surrender type of thing. But a couple of things I see with the hands is at the very end, when he's offering the hand, the dog's in a little bit of retreat. So that might not be a bad thing, but it means a little avoidance. There's not he's not relaxed when he's doing it. And then at other times,
right there.
Yeah. And at other times the dog is moving towards the bowl and he kind of pulls the bowl away and then he relies on more sound, like obedience to recover. And then something I caught at the very end, and this to me is important. Do you see how the dog still has a cable on him?
Yeah.
So where is the man's trust in this being executed without that level of support after this much time? So to me, if I were to approach this, I would have just stood holding the bowl of food.
Yep.
I would have waited for the dog to completely relax. And if he wanted to take the food handling approach, I would have knelt down. I would have offered some food for him to kind of reach in and come back to a relaxed position. If the dog would have stood up, I probably would have stood up, put psychological pressure on him, waited for him to relax again, all the way back down. I would have knelt back down, offered him some food. I would have done that a few repetitions, and then I probably would just let him eat. I never remove dogs off of food for the sake of practicing moving them off of food. Okay,
or stick my hand in the bowl. I'm doing that stuff.
None of that other stuff. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get them to go, okay, here's food. I need to give this guy some distance and some calmness. I've done infinite posts on it. And I want to see a dog that's relaxed. I believe that's the way to prevent them from associating competition or excitement and then therefore the possession. And since he's got him on that small platform, some of the things he's doing is artificially getting that dog to eat over the food too much.
Yeah, and it's more elevated, like have that little platform, and so it's even now it's on the floor, so he's got that like 5-6 inches, whatever. That now it's even more, where it has to like really lean over, and that for me creates more of the competition, more of the possessiveness. You know,
positioning of it. So, and that cable thing to me speaks something. Like, I see a lot of people don't trust that the training that they're doing is working. So they're always holding on. Like that's not acceptance. That's not trust, in my opinion. That's you're expecting failure, or that dog is lunged at him.
Yeah,
maybe, or is lunged at something. It's lunged at a bird. It's lunged at one of the critters around there. So I had somebody ask me to help where I'm at, I actually get a lot of livestock situations. So there was a spell I had a lot of Great Pyrenees. I had a guy that was having some of his birds. He has geese taken by bobcats, and he got a dog. And he's like, how do I get this to work? I go, well, the birds slept under this big deck. And I said, well, put the dog under there to sleep with the birds. We're going to feed him with the birds. Right. So we're going to create the things that create the family, which is, moving around together, sleeping together, eat. Think about human families. Human families eat together. We sleep together. We move around together. And you have to have respect around food. My daughter's not allowed to be an idiot around food.
So a couple of things that you mentioned also about feeding, because you asked me about hand feeding. I don't hand feed my dogs. However, I do feed them differently, and I'll tell you the difference. So I've got specifically two dogs that are very forward with food. So the food, they never go towards the food. The food only comes to them.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the other five, they calmly wait and things like that. So the food comes to them because they know how to give this food space and distance. But to the two dogs that I have, they never go toward. They don't take a step towards the food. The food only comes to them. That makes sense.
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
I was actually thinking about that this morning when I was feeding them because like I think people do the same. For a long time until I had these two dogs, I could do the same thing. Whether the dogs go towards the food, but they're all waiting. I could just have food out and they're just calmly. But these two are a little more forward, and I feed these two together, by the way.
Okay.
Because of they're the same energy. I don't want the other one, and they're close, but they're in my like laundry room, which is still attached to the kitchen. There's a doorway, so the two get fed over here, but the food they never take a step towards food. It only comes to them. So as soon as they relax a little bit and they'll wait, because the minute they take a step forward, it gets excited again. So I don't want the food to represent the excitement. So as they're waiting, the food comes to them, then they can start eating. Because again, any step forward is a step towards excitement. And I don't want any of that stuff.
Dude, so people can see it doesn't just mean food. I was out working with this dog, and I came across a couple of people I know, and the dog started to get excited and go towards him, and they're like, "Can we pet him?" I go, "Not if he comes to you. Hold on." Same exact thing. So I do not want the dog to move towards the people because they'll learn that I can move in with excitement and get something.
Yeah.
Right. So it's always, you never want the brain to gain what it wants using an energy like that, especially with dogs like that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter that it's food.
So with this guy here, I mean, and you talked about like it's back tied, which probably, and he said something like, I don't want this food, the aggression to become an issue because he's
Correct.
80 pounds now. He's going to be 160 pounds or something like that. And what you mentioned, again, we're only making an assumption, but he's tethering and back tying him because maybe something was shown already. Like, you know what I mean? And so I'm not opposed to the back tie, but here's the thing, like for me, just like with this dog on a muzzle, I'm going to take the dog through all the motions until we feel comfortable enough that it's making the right decision.
How are you going to feed him, Art?
This guy?
Yeah.
So he's in the crate. I'm probably going to feed him in the crate. But I want to see how he responds to this like food. I really need to get him to move with me, like just anything. Because the owner said like, yeah, he doesn't move for food or anything. So I want to just kind of see if I can get him to be excited for something, but not, I want him to be able to move forward, not forward towards me to bite me, but obviously forward in a calm, playful, happy-go-lucky way, because he doesn't do that
Any
either.
advantage to not feeding him tonight and then maybe just feeding him tomorrow?
I thought about that too, because the other thing is like, because he's going to be a little stressed out. Afraid I might put some food in his stomach that he may have diarrhea, which the owners did tell me that this is a dog that if they said their neighbors were doing their roof and just the sound of the hammer made that dog so stressed that it had diarrhea all over the place. So it's a stress shit.
Yeah. Are they on a probiotic or anything like that? Or are they just...
No, but I mean, when you get a dog that's anxious and nervous, their skin looks bad.
Totally.
And so this is one of those dogs, and I brought it up to them, and he's on Abaquil, and they're like, "Oh, we thought it was allergies." Like, I think it's the anxiety that's causing all this stuff,
So I was at Monica's place one time with a dog like you're describing, and I had Monica take the dog's temperature, and the dog, that anxiety raises their temperature anywhere between 1 and 3 degrees, so it's almost like a fever.
Wow.
So their body is going to take a hammering, right? Their soft tissues, their skin, their stomach. I think that's super common and overlooked a lot.
Yeah. You pair that with, this dog's not a Frenchie, but let's say you did have a Frenchie, like how stressful it is, always, being in pain, can't breathe, can't cool down. But I'm definitely not going to take this dog's temperature because, I'm not.
Yeah, right.
Stick it up with dog, but
do it right now. Video.
Yeah. Let's do it. But yeah, I'm excited to see, Caesar had that dog, Baduelo, or Benuelo, that boxer, white boxer that was blind and deft. He always called it blind and deft. And he always talks about how like that dog like brought a lot. So the dog just heard my other dog. He started barking.
Who's barking? Is that him
The
barking?
dog in here, yeah. He just did 2 like little short barks because he heard something down the hallway. He heard my dog walking down the hallway. Anyhow, but this dog is like, you can tell that and actually we had our dog Gracie that we adopted from our family was on all these medications, anti-anxiety med, and this dog was just, she was a mess. And her fur, it was just falling out all the time. As soon as we got her off the meds and we started like kind of just, and she's a happy-go-lucky dog, like she really is, but she's just sensitive like with our presence sometimes. But her skin looks so much better now. Like she's not as stressed all the time. We have a routine that works for her, that works for us, and she doesn't run off. She just can have her off leash for the most part. As long as we have a dog with us, she's gonna be fine.
You should let that dog eat some weed. I've seen that happen a couple times. Dude, it needs, all right. I think like a lot of things, and I need some vet input here, is everybody's been scared shitless into saying that if your dog consumes marijuana, it's going to kill it. It's not true. It's very much not true. And it's super common. Like it's really common that dogs are consuming this stuff left, right, and center, and not small amounts either. Now, I'm sure there's a toxic level, but I don't think just the fact it's in their system is killing them. I don't. Right? I think they can process it, because when I've seen would be so beneficial for some people, it's unbelievable. They literally are high, like not a little bit either. So some dogs, I'm sure it could spook them, but I mean, I've seen it to where it just puts them in this loopy state for hours.
Yeah,
hours. And if done the right way, I do believe there is a huge therapeutic effect from that. But I don't know. I don't want to say the right way. I've seen one of my own dogs ate it. I have a photo of it too. It's hilarious because when it first happened, I thought he was dying. I thought he had gotten bit by a snake or something. Dude, he comes in the bathroom and he's like, and I go, fuck, and I pick him up and I run to the vet. I told you this. And we run in. I'm like, I don't know. No. And like, oh, it could be weed. And I was like, shit, if this, and then for hours after that, he was just like so jelly. I mean, I would think that, I mean, it couldn't hurt. So finding out, that happened to a friend, finding out how you could use that outside of just the CBD side.
Yeah.
Anthony, he gave me oil with flour in it.
I've had that too.
He had the an indica and a sativa, and you could see it he gave a pattern. He's like, in the morning you do this, in the evening you do this, in the middle of the day you do this. And I'm down for that stuff for dogs like yours that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a shout out to Anthony Jacobs from Halo Organics. Some really good CBD products. Highly recommend them. You can go to the website, haloorganics.com, I think it is.
Yeah, if he still does. I know he was doing stuff for a lot of like medical, like human medical stuff, like cancer patients and stuff.
Yeah, because he's a cancer patient, like survivor himself. So
oh wow,
that's awesome. I had him on a webinar about a year and a half ago.
That's about right. I introduced him to you, and then you actually became friends with him. Yeah, I did.
No, you did.
I did. I gave you all his information years ago, years and years ago.
I got it from Brian Agnew.
Then where did I get it from?
I told you about it.
No, it didn't come from you.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I introduced him to Brad. No. They were taking credit for everything.
You're making this stuff up. No, I don't want credit.
Yeah, I found out on because of Brian Agnew.
Oh, you were saying something earlier. Brian did a great post. You were mentioning getting a dog ahead of time. Brian did a post where he said, it should be like, I think he said 95.5. You should be getting the intention 95% of the time, not the behavior to be effective.
Huh. I missed that one.
Yeah, I thought that was good. It was 90-10 or 95.5. I forget. I think like 87% of statistics are made up on the spot. And so it was really good because it made the point of you got to get it at thought level, at intention level, to really prevent that repetition of the jumping or the lunging from being effective. It was a good post.
Bigger in person than the camera shows.
Sorry, I didn't mean to play that again.
All right, man. I think it was a good.
Rick Wheat there.
There we go. I think this was a good episode.
I got this one too.
Yeah.
Learning new features on this thing.
I'll say
All
things with that.
Well, cool, man. Thanks for taking time out of your day. I was glad that I was able to make this call or this podcast because I was with this dog for a while. I was just, like I said, I was just going to go pick it up and bring it home, but I was there at their house for 2 hours. Actually, it was like an hour and a half by the time I got home.
When your whole forward moving gets changed, right?
Yeah.
You think you're going to go do this one thing, and now you're just back at the most basics of basics.
Well, also, luckily, I had an appointment that canceled that was after that, so it just worked out perfect.
Yep. Sometimes it does. All right, man. We'll go put this dog in the right headspace, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Sounds good.